The repair bay on Station Kelvereth hummed with the usual symphony of hydraulics and plasma torches. Darren Voss wiped his grease-stained hands on his coveralls, squinting at the Thraxian freighter's engine core he'd been wrestling with for the past 4 hours. The pay was decent, the work honest, and nobody asked too many questions about a human mechanic this far into dragon-controlled space. That's when he heard it, a soft, hiccuping sob echoing through the metal corridors. Darren paused, wrench still in hand. The station's marketplace was just beyond the bay doors, a bustling maze of vendors selling everything from star charts to exotic foods. But that sound, that heartbroken little cry, cut through all the noise like a blade. He shouldn't get involved. He had work to finish, credits to earn, and a reputation for keeping his head down. But Darren had always been cursed with what his mother called an inconvenient conscience. Setting down his tools, he followed the sound. Behind a stack of cargo crates, he found the source, a small dragon hatchling no bigger than a large dog, scales shimmering in iridescent blues and silvers. Tears, actual tears, streamed down its snout as it clutched something in its tiny claws. The creature looked up at Darren with eyes that held a universe of sorrow. "Hey there, little one," Darren said softly, crouching down to the hatchling's level. He'd learned long ago that size mattered less than tone when dealing with frightened creatures. The hatchling sniffled, its wings drooping. In its claws was a small mechanical dragon, beautifully crafted but clearly broken. One wing hung at an odd angle and its gem-like eyes had gone dark. "Your toy's broken?" Darren asked gently. The hatchling nodded, fresh tears spilling over. It chirped something in the draconic tongue, too fast and too young for the universal translator to catch. But the meaning was clear enough. This wasn't just a toy. This was treasure. This was precious. Darren held out his hand. "May I look at it?" For a moment, the hatchling hesitated. Dragons, even young ones, didn't easily surrender their treasures, but something in Darren's weathered face and his patient eyes must have resonated. Slowly, carefully, the hatchling placed the mechanical dragon in his palm. What Darren saw made him whistle low. This wasn't some cheap station trinket. The craftsmanship was exquisite. Micro-servos, crystalline power cells, articulated joints that would make it move like a real dragon in flight. Whoever had made this loved the hatchling very much. "The wing's fixable," Darren said more to himself than the hatchling. "And I think I can get the power cell working again. Give me a few minutes, okay?" He sat down cross-legged right there on the station floor, pulling a compact toolkit from his belt. The hatchling settled beside him, watching with rapt attention as Darren's scarred fingers worked with surprising delicacy. What Darren didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that they were being watched. From the shadows of an observation balcony 3 levels above, Emperor Thrakor Velis stood motionless. His massive form was cloaked in adaptive camouflage, his presence masked by technology that could fool even military-grade sensors. He had been conducting what his guards called walkabouts, unannounced tours of his empire to see how his subjects truly lived. And what he saw now held him transfixed. His youngest grandson, Kelvix, had wandered from his nursemaid during the station visit. Thrakor had been tracking the hatchling, ready to intervene if danger presented itself. But this he had not expected. A human. One of the soft-skinned apes his generals spoke of with such disdain. The species that had no natural armor, no wings, no breath weapons. The species that was tolerated in dragon space only because they were useful with machines. And yet, Thrakor watched as Darren carefully soldered a microwire with the tip of a heat pen. The human's hands, rough and calloused from years of labor, moved with a surgeon's precision. More than that, he spoke to Kelvix in a gentle stream of words. Nonsense, really, just keeping the hatchling calm, but filled with such genuine kindness that it made something in the Emperor's ancient heart shift. "There we go," Darren murmured, reconnecting the wing assembly. "Just need to recharge the power cell and let's try this." He pressed a small button at the base of the mechanical dragon's spine. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the toy's eyes blazed to life with brilliant light. Its wings extended fully and began to flap in a smooth, lifelike rhythm. It lifted from Darren's palm and executed a perfect loop in the air before settling back into the hatchling's claws. Kelvix's reaction was instantaneous. The little dragon squealed with pure joy, clutching the toy to his chest before launching himself at Darren in what could only be described as a hug. Darren laughed, a warm, genuine sound, and patted the hatchling's back. "You're welcome, little guy. Now you should probably get back to whoever's looking after you." They're going to be worried. From his vantage point, Thrakor felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: shame. His general spoke of humans as nothing more than tools, useful but ultimately disposable. His advisors recommended strict policies to keep them in their place. He himself had signed decrees limiting human settlement in dragon territories. But here was truth, undeniable and pure. This human, who owed his grandson nothing, who had every reason to ignore a dragon's tears in a station far from his home, had instead offered comfort and skill without thought of payment. This was not the action of a lesser being. Thrakor watched as Darren guided Kelvix back toward the marketplace, staying with the hatchling until a frantic nursemaid appeared. The human accepted no reward despite the nursemaid's offers. He simply smiled, ruffled Kelvix's head ridge, and returned to his repair bay. The Emperor remained in the shadows for a long time after, thinking. 3 days later, Darren Voss received an official summons to the Imperial Palace. He went with trembling hands, certain he'd somehow violated some obscure law. Instead, he found himself in a private audience chamber, face to face with the most powerful being in 7 star systems. Darren Voss, Emperor Thrakor Velis said, his voice resonating like distant thunder. I have a proposition for you. And thus began the most unlikely friendship in the galaxy, one that would reshape the Empire's policies toward humanity, all because a simple mechanic couldn't ignore a child's tears, because that's what humans did. They fixed broken things. They helped those who cried. They cared even when caring made no logical sense, and sometimes the universe noticed.